Hello, I'm Tyler Halpin, and this is my presentation on how to deploy the backend for the Super GT Fan Tracker application. So the application is actually two parts. The front end, which is a mobile application built for Android, API 36 version, or Android version 16. And the backend, which is Spring Boot in Java, which is meant for JDK 21 or Java Development Kit 21. So we're going to be deploying this on Amazon or AWS. Even though they've had some recent issues recently, and even currently, they are having a few issues. I'm more familiar with their EC2 instances, and their VPC network typically just works, minus times like this where they just are having random issues. But for the overall procedures, I'm going to be going over launching an EC2 instance, setting up the instance, so that'll be assigning an elastic IP address, and the security groups. We're going to connect to it through SSH. We're going to be using PuTTY and WinSCP. Both of them, when we generate the EC2 instance, we'll be creating a SSH key. We're going to be using that same key for both sessions, so we can log into it and deliver copy files over. Then we're going to prepare the environment, so we're going to update the operating system and install the applications. Then we're going to prepare the database, and so we'll be creating the database, taking the root user, giving it a password, creating an actual local user, which will be used for database management for the actual application, so it can access it. And then we're going to be importing the backup SQL file into the database, so it'll actually have information once we get it running. Then we're going to prepare the application, so we're going to actually manually run it, so that way we can verify if it works. And then we're going to deploy the application. So we're going to create a system service, and we're going to start that service and then confirm that it works. After that, we're going to have to update the mobile application, because that's currently hard-coded with the current private IP address that I'm using for my own private server. It wasn't meant for an AWS deployment. So we're going to be changing that and putting in the new public IP address. And then I'm going to show you how to set up an EC2 template, so that way if you needed to, you can just create another copy of this version, or the server. So let's get started. This is the file that you get with you should have got with the submission. This will have everything from the front end, back end documentation files, and the releases. These are the important files that you'll be worried about mostly. The APK for your phone, that's how you install it. The jar file is the actual backend file, or the backend application. The supergt.service, this is the service file that we'll be using later, so that it runs whenever the system is running. And then the backup database. And then also the README. This is so you could follow along. This is a step-by-step process of exactly whatever I'm going to do. It also includes all the commands that I'm going to be running. So let's get into it. We're going to start by creating an EC2 instance. I'm going to go launch instance, Super GT. We're going to use Ubuntu, and so even though it was built with 2.5 in mind, it'll work with 2.4. They're both LTS versions. We're going to be using 64-bit by86. We're not going to be using the ARM version. It's going to be a micro instance type, and we're going to have to create a new key pair. So we're going to call this Super GT key, or it's going to be an RSA, and we're going to be using PPK. .pem is typically for Linux and Mac OS, not necessarily, but in this instance, we're going to be using the .ppk because we're going to be using PuTTY and WinSCP. So we're going to create, and we're going to save this to our computer. So now it's been installed or copied or downloaded. Sorry. We're going to create a security group, and we're just going to leave all of that as it is. Now we're going to launch. Now I did say we were going to leave that. That's not entirely accurate. We're going to go back and actually change the security group real quick. So we're going to go to the instance summary. We're going to go to security groups, and then we're going to edit the inbound rules. And we're going to add a rule. This will be a custom TCP. It'll be port 8080. It'll be a custom from any user, basically. And we're going to change the SSH source to my IP address, because that'll be the admin account. That's what I'm going to be using personally. And then also this will be the users. Because of how this application works, Spring Boot uses port 8080, and that's an HTTP port. If you were to put just the HTTP type, it would only allow port 80. So you have to go and you have to manually allow port 8080. So we're going to save this. You can see here it's been made, and we're going to go and create an elastic IP address now. So we need to create an elastic IP address, and so what this is it's a public IP address that's registered to your VPC or your virtual private connections or whatever. I can't remember what it stands for. Basically, it's a public IP address that's assigned to you. Your account could only have up to 5, and they are kind of expensive after a while. So here we've created one. Let's go to it real quick, and we're going to copy that. Put that here, port 8080 API. Sorry, just getting that ready. So when we test later, it'll be good. But this IP address is what we'll be using for connecting WinSCP and PuTTY. So here, we're going to go to Actions, and we are actually going to have to go back. Elastic IP addresses. Click the checkbox on the left, and we're going to associate it to an instance, and we're going to use that new instance that we just created and the public IP or the private IP address that is associated with it already. And click Associate. So now that way, if you ever stop that instance, it doesn't regenerate, or it doesn't create a new public IP address. It'll always use this exact elastic IP address. And with that, we can go back to the EC2s, look at our running instance, and we're going to go to the connect and SSH client. So this is typically how you would get in if you were just using command line. We're going to be using PuTTY. So here, and we're going to be saving it as a session. So it's going to be Ubuntu at that private or that public IP address. We're going to call this super GT. We're going to save it. And now you can try with that. That will not work. You have to go and use that private key that I was talking about earlier. We're going to have to assign that so that whenever it tries to log in, it has the key to authenticate. So we're going to go over here to categories, down to connections, to SSH, go into auth, and we're going to look at credentials. Then you see the section where it says private key file for authentication. We're going to click browse, and we're going to use that key. And we're going to go back up to sessions and save it, just to make sure it's saved. And then we're going to open and accept, and it will authenticate. So now we're currently in the actual EC2 instance remotely. So also we're going to go and connect with WinSCP real quick. and create a saved instant or a saved session. So, new site. We're going to be using SFTP. The host name is going to be the IP address. The username is going to be Ubuntu. We're going to click Advanced. Same thing, we're going to have to use that key, so we're going to go to SSH Authentication and go to Private Key File and add that private key. And we're going to click OK. And we're going to save this. TFT public. Just to make it different from the one that I'm currently using to manage. So from there, we're going to log in, accept. And so now we can actually manually move files over. Excuse me. From there, so we've launched the EC2 instance, we've set it up, we've connected to it using the SSH key. Now we need to do some environment preparation. This is going to be sudo apt update and upgrade. I'm going to be saying the commands as I go along, but I'm going to be copying and pasting it from the README file. So if you're following along, the commands are in there. Okay, now that the operating system's been updated, we're going to go sudo apt install default JRE. And this is going to be the Java Development Kit version 21, so that we can actually run the application. Now we have the Java Development Kit installed. We're going to do sudo apt install MySQL server, and this will be the actual database that we're storing information on. Okay, now open SSH server. This will really just be an update because it's already being used. And the same thing with UFW. That's SSH and the firewall. Now that that's all been updated, the environment's been prepared, now we can actually go and start copying over files. So for this, we're going to be taking the backend, the snapshot.jar file. We're going to be taking the SQL backup as well. We're not going to be taking the supergt.service because that has to be in a specific folder and we're going to have to escalate privileges. If you want to manually do that yourself, you can. I'm just going to copy and paste it in by hand once I get there. And I'll show you how I do that. So now we have these in here. We can close this out. We won't be needing WinSCP again for this. So from there, we go into actual database preparation. Now that we're back in PuTTY, we're going to go sudo mysql -u root. Because MySQL isn't generated with a root password, we're going to start off by creating a root user password, adding a new local user that the application will be using, creating a database, and then assigning the user access to that database. So here we go. Alter user root local host. Also, all the passwords and usernames and stuff in here, they are just for demonstration purposes. As soon as this evaluation is over, I'm going to be deleting all of them and creating and assigning new passwords and usernames. This is only for the sake of tutorial, because it's kind of a pain to be putting actual actual passwords with like special characters and stuff. Just for the sake of example, never put your password and username out in public. So now that that's been created, we're going to now create the database itself and assign the user to it. And then once that's done, we're going to exit, and we're going to navigate back to the home Ubuntu directory. make sure we're in that directory, because we're going to be using the backup.sql file, and we're going to be importing it. So sudo mysql u user -p super gt database > super gt database backup.sql. Then we're going to use that local user password, and then we're going to actually log into the local user. User p. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to show that we're going to actually show that the database has been imported. So we're going to use super gt database. Here we go. Make sure it's good. Now it's been changed. We're going to show tables. So some of the data has been imported, at least the tables have been. We're going to show that that the data inside has been imported as well. So this is drivers. This is all the driver information. So we're going to exit, and we're going to go down and prepare the application now. So this is where we manually run it to make sure that both the elastic IP address is working, that all our firewalls and access and stuff like that's working properly, and that the database is able to be accessed by the application itself. So we're gonna go back to make sure we're in the file that you have the jar file, or the directory with the jar file in it. And we're going to copy and paste the db URL command. So the way this application was made is so that the username and password and all that stuff isn't hard-coded. It uses environmental variables. So the database URL and the user and password are all specified right before you run it. It's not hard-coded for security reasons. And it also means that it's changeable, so if you ever decide to use a different database, you can just change whatever the system or the service is running. It's having an issue. Let me troubleshoot this real quick. Okay, I think I figured it out. It was an issue with it not wanting to, basically it was how the environmental variables were being accepted. It wasn't seeing the actual values, it was taking the entire statement as a string literal, and it was messing it up. So, here we go. Now that's running. We're going to test it, make sure it is. Because it's HTTP, it's not a secure connection. Here we go, continue to site. And you can see all of the race information, another drivers, and it'll show a bunch of driver names. Let's go back. Control C, and that will close out the application. So now that we've got the application working, we can go and actually deploy it and create a service. So we're going to start by elevating our privileges to root. So we're going to go sudo -i, and this is going to put us in a root session. We're going to back out, so cd ... make sure. And then we're going to nano etc systemd system super gt.service. And so what this is doing is nano is basically a text editing application inside Linux. And we're going to the etc systemd system and creating a new text file, basically super gt.service. And so you remember the file earlier I said that we're not going to be copying in because it has to be in a specific place. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy the entire text and paste it in like that, and right click. So here you got the description. The user is going to be the local user. The working directory is whatever directory that you have it in. So in this case, it would be the home Ubuntu. The environment, it's going to be using the database URL, username, and password. Basically, it's going to be the same thing as the manual usage, except that we will have to specify the Java application file. And then there we go. That should be good. We're going to Control X, Y, and Enter. And what that just did is it saved and created the file. From there, let me pull this back up. So now that that's been released or created, we can exit, and that'll log us out of root. And we're going to restart the daemon. So systemctl daemon.reload, sudo systemctl enable super gt.service. And what this is doing is it's actually creating the service. Just because the file is there doesn't mean it'll run. This is actually making it run. So it's created the service, and then we're going to actually go and start that service. So before I do, we're going to go back here. So it's not running. It's going to time out. Just because the only reason it was able to get that information earlier was because we were manually running it. Now we're actually going to have the service running it. So now it's been started. We can check the status. And we'll see here, it's enabled, preset to be enabled, so that means whenever the system reloads or restarts, it'll turn on, and it's actively running. So Control C, and if we go back and press reload, it'll be running. So now that we have the actual service, it's actually been deployed, so we can actually use it now. The application, though, on the other hand, if I were to, let me just pull it up real quick. Okay, so because of how the app works, it is pointing to a hard-coded backend IP address, and that's currently what I'm running on my private server. To change it to the new AWS public release, I would be taking the retrofit client inside the actual application files, and instead of the build config file that I have it currently set on to, so I don't release the current domain and all that stuff, I can actually paste it here. So let me delete this, go back to here, copy this whole thing in, was this one, and you're going to post it or paste it as a string. Then you're going to run it. Oh, I should have shown it on the actual app. Let me uninstall it real quick so I can show you that it's using this now. So let me run again. There we go. String error. And there we go. It's pulling the actual information. If it were just to like timeout, let me just put a 0 there and rerun the app. So it'll rerun, it'll hit this loading screen, and it'll just say it timed out, but it'll also use the cache data that it got from earlier. And let Let me just show you what it would do on a first install if it failed. So it'll hit this loading screen, fail, and then it just won't have any information to load. But we'll change that back. Reload. And there, the mobile application's working again, using the AWS release. So let me move all that out of the way. Now that the application's been updated and the actual server has a service on it, so whenever it reloads, it'll use the same public IP address, and it has the correct firewall settings, and the service itself will run whenever it, or run automatically. Now I'm going to show you how to set up auto deployment. It's not really so much auto deployment, it's more of just a template. So if you wanted to create another instance, you could also assign another IP address. So if you wanted one for, I don't know, you want one for just a production and then one for testing, you could have one with a different IP address. But we're going to go back to AWS. We're going to go back to EC2, go to running instances, and we're going to make sure it's checked. And we're going to go to actions, images and templates, create template from instance. This would be super GT template. AWS, and we're not going to change anything else about it. It'll use all the same stuff. Then we're going to create that template. So now if we ever wanted to create another instance of the same server, we could just go to EC2, launch instance. Actually, let me cancel that real quick. Dashboard. Had a weird error. We're going to press the arrow next to the launch instance, and we're going to say launch instance from template. And then we're just going to pick that template, and it'll have all the information already loaded and ready to go, so that all we have to do is hit launch. But that has been my demo of how to operate and install the Super GT fan tracker backend. I thank you for your time, and I hope you have a great day.